Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a historical journey that involves queens, pirates, drug lords, and factory workers.
Quite a cast of characters.
It really is. And the vehicle for this entire epic, a simple, humble leaf.
We are diving deep into the profound, centuries-long obsession the United Kingdom has with tea.
Right.
And this is not just a hot beverage. It is, and I don't think this is an exaggeration, an unshakable pillar of an entire national identity.
So the mission for this deep dive is to trace the lineage of this one commodity. We want to see how tea went from being this rare, prohibitively expensive luxury to the universal panacea, the great social lubricant, and really the very lifeblood of British culture.
Exactly.
We're trying to go beyond the quaint stereotypes and really trace the economic, political, and cultural force this drink became.
And what's so incredible is how seamlessly it integrated itself into every facet of life. It truly permeates every social level.
You mean from like the high society ceremony?
From the delicate three-tiered ceremony of the aristocracy with the bone china, all the way to the strong dark brew served in an enamel mug at a construction site.
Wow.
Our sources show that to understand Britain, its history of empire, its rigid class structure, even its unique approach to emotional difficulty, you really have to understand the rules and rituals surrounding a cup of tea.
And it all starts with a political move and a dowry. Okay, let's unpack this. We need to begin at the moment this foreign commodity landed and somehow managed to stick, transforming a nation forever. So before the 1660s, tea was what? It's not really a thing in Britain.
Barely a curiosity. It was incredibly rare, occasionally brought back by Dutch or Portuguese traders, but it certainly wasn't a common drink, not at all.
And then everything changes. It changes because of a major state wedding in 1662. We're talking about King Charles II's marriage to Catherine of Braganza.
This is the inflection point, absolutely.
So who was Catherine?
Catherine was a Portuguese princess, and Portugal, unlike Britain at the time, already had established trade routes with the East. Particularly with China through their colony in Macau. So she was already a devoted tea drinker.
So it was part of her culture already.
Yes. And our sources note she actually brought a massive casket of fine tea with her as part of her dowry.
Wait. So the most significant commodity she brought, the one that would eventually fuel an empire, was basically tea.
That's right. That was the key. She arrived at court. She maintained her habit, drinking it daily. And because she was the queen, this instantly elevated tea to a powerful symbol of aristocratic sophistication.
Of course.
It wasn't just a drink anymore. It was a visible performance of wealth, of taste, of, global connection.
That makes perfect sense. It's exotic, it's hard to get.
Right.
And therefore, it's prohibitively expensive. It becomes a conscious choice designed to signal you belong to the elite.
Absolutely. And the consumption ritual was just as important as the drink itself.
You mean the cups?
Yes, exactly. If you were wealthy enough to drink tea, you also had to display that wealth by serving it in delicate, imported Chinese porcelain. Specifically, those thin, translucent blue A Blanc cups that were just hugely prized. It was a total sensory and status package. And because of the heavy taxation, it was simply out of reach for anyone outside the most exclusive circles.
So the appetite was there, but it needed a corporate behemoth to manage the global supply chain.
A behemoth is the right word.
The East India Company, the EIC. We really can't analyze tea without understanding the sheer, frankly terrifying power of this organization.
No, you can't. The EIC was unique in world history. It wasn't merely a trading company. It operated as a state unto itself.
With its own army.
It governed huge territories in India. It had its own vast private army. It flew its own flag. And crucially, it held a state-sanctioned monopoly on all British trade east of the Cape of Good Hope.
And for them, tea quickly became the most important commodity.
Oh, absolutely. Their massive ships, the famous East Indiamen, undertook these perilous year-long voyages to China. At least. But the route was highly regulated by the Chinese. The EIC ships were only permitted to dock and trade at a single port, Canton, which is modern-day Guangzhou.
So that's a real bottleneck.
A huge bottleneck. The whole system was fragile, highly profitable, but entirely dependent on Chinese compliance.
And here's where the economics start driving these monumental and, dark historical decisions. The trade deficit.
Yes.
The British public developed this insatiable desire for Chinese tea, silk, porcelain. But what did China want in return?
That was the problem. Almost nothing the British produced. China had a sophisticated, self-sufficient economy. They saw little value in, say, heavy British woolens or manufactured goods.
So the only thing the Chinese would accept was silver.
Hard silver bullion. That was it.
So Britain was essentially hemorrhaging silver just to feed its tea habit. I mean, how serious was this outflow for the British economy?
It was an existential threat to the EIC and a major, major drain on national reserves. Our sources show that by the late 18th century, Britain was paying millions of pounds worth of silver annually to China. This economic imbalance was completely unsustainable. The EIC realized they couldn't just keep shipping silver. They needed a product the Chinese would buy.
And that desperation led to what our sources call one of the darkest chapters in the history of the British Empire.
Narco-trafficking.
Yeah.
On a state scale.
Unbelievable.
It was a cynical and brutally efficient solution. The EIC realized they controlled the fertile poppy fields in their Indian territories, fields that produced vast quantities of high-quality opium. So they began to illegally smuggle this drug into China, violating Chinese sovereignty and laws.
And the goal was just simple, to flip the trade balance by creating a demand for the drug.
Precisely. They flooded the Chinese market, knowing they could create addicts who would spend their precious silver on the drug.
And then they just took that silver.
They collected that silver and then immediately used that same silver to purchase tea, closing the loop. It solved the trade deficit, but at the cost of widespread social and economic devastation in China, which ultimately led to the devastating opium wars of the mid-19th century.
So this history really underscores that tea, in its British context, is just inextricably linked to global violence and exploitation.
You can't separate them.
That is heavy. So while the EIC is running this immense global network, the average person in Britain still couldn't afford a legal cup of tea because of government policy.
Exactly. The government saw tea as an easy target for revenue. The taxes were astronomical. I mean, often over 100% of the tea's value.
Over 100%.
Yes. So this created a massive, profitable black market. If the legal cost of tea was, say, 10 shillings, the smugglers could offer it for 5.
And the smuggling trade became huge. I've read that for long periods in the 18th century, more tea was smuggled into places like Cornwall and Kent than was legally imported.
That tells you everything you need to know about the sheer underlying national addiction.
It does.
And it wasn't just poor quality, adulterated tea either. The smugglers had sophisticated networks to land fine cargo, often using fast, small boats that could outrun the king's customs cutters. The government was losing a fortune, and legitimate merchants were furious.
So how did they fix this fiscal mess?
The turning point was 1784. Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger and the Commutation Act.
Okay.
The tax rate had just become politically untenable and economically senseless. So Pitt took this drastic step of slashing the tax on tea from that staggering 119% down to a mere 12.5%.
That's a huge gamble for a government that's relying on that income. Why make such a dramatic move?
It was a calculated risk. The logic was simple. By making legal tea cheap, they would kill the smuggling trade overnight.
Right.
The thinking was that the increase in the volume of legal tax sales would eventually compensate for the lower tax rate, and it worked.
It actually worked.
It worked perfectly. The price plummeted, the smugglers were put out of business, and critically, tea was suddenly affordable for the booming middle and working classes. This was the true democratization of the brew.
And once it was democratized, the race for speed began. The 19th century gave us these technological marvels, the tea clippers.
They were stunning. These beautiful three-masted sailing ships, designed purely for speed and built to race the new season's harvest from China back to London.
Like the Cutty Sark.
The famous Cutty Sark or the Thermopylae, they were the Formula One cars of their day.
And the annual Great Tea Race wasn't just a trade event. It became this national obsession, right?
Oh, completely. The public would gather at the docks and telegraph offices, placing huge bets on which ship would deliver the first shipment of the year.
So there was real money riding on it.
Huge amounts. And the ship that arrived first commanded the highest prices. It fused high-stakes commerce with national sporting excitement. It was the ultimate display of British naval and industrial prowess, all driven by the demand for a faster cup of tea.
But even with the clippers, the British establishment was still deeply uncomfortable with their strategic reliance on a single foreign power, China.
Especially after the Opium Wars created so much diplomatic instability. The British obsession demanded a secure, controllable supply source from within the empire.
And the EIC put immense resources into finding and cultivating tea in India.
They did. And they succeeded after discovering a native variety of the tea plant Camellia sinensis assamica in Assam, India. This discovery became the foundation of what they called empire tea.
So they could grow their own.
Yes. The EIC and later independent planters cleared vast swaths of jungle and began cultivating these massive plantations.
But this required enormous labor.
It did, and the source material highlights that this was secured through a system of indentured servitude, where workers were brought in, often coercively, from other parts of India under really harsh exploitative conditions.
So the creation of the classic British cuppa is just intrinsically tied to colonial violence and exploitation, first through opium and now through forced labor on the plantations.
It's an essential connection, and the expansion didn't stop in India. A major pivotal event happened in Ceylon, which is modern-day Sri Lanka.
What happened there?
A coffee rust fungus completely wiped out the entire coffee industry in the 1870s. Planters switched almost overnight to tea.
Wow. And this shift from Chinese green and oolong teas to the Indian and Ceylonese blends, that must have fundamentally changed what tea meant to the British palate.
It changed everything. The Chinese teas were traditionally delicate, floral. The new empire teas, Assam, Darjeeling, Ceylon, were much stronger, bolder black teas.
The kind that needs milk.
Exactly. They require milk and sugar to temper their bitterness. And this was actively marketed as a patriotic duty, encouraging consumption of the imperial product.
Right. Drink empire tea.
And that bold, strong taste profile is what defines the classic British brew today. So by the late Victorian era, tea had completed its journey. It was the non-negotiable staple drink, the fuel for the industrial machine, and the defining taste of the nation.
So it's clear now that the economics and history are just deeply entangled with this leaf. But the British don't just drink tea. They practice these highly specific, sacred rituals based on the time of day. This is a crucial distinction, this idea of tea time.
That's absolutely right. Every tea moment has a different function, a different social code, and often a different set of crockery. We have to understand the taxonomy of the British tea day.
Okay, so let's start with the most fundamental ritual, the morning cuppa. I believe our sources call this the ignition key for the day.
It's pure brute function. This is the first thing that happens after you wake up, often before you've even properly dressed. It's the moment the brain kicks into gear.
Right. You can't start the day without it.
You can't. It's usually the English breakfast blend. A strong, brisk black tea served in a big, sturdy mug. No delicate porcelain here. It's about maximum caffeine, maximum heat, often with milk and sugar for a rapid energy boost.
It sets the tone for the entire day. If the morning cuppa is rushed or, God forbid, improperly made, the day is doomed from the start.
Precisely. It is non-negotiable. Then we move into the working day, and the most hallowed institution of all, the tea break.
Oh, yes.
This is a crucial legacy of the Industrial Revolution.
When you look back at those grueling pre-union factory conditions of the 19th century, that short, often mandated break was just vital.
It was, and it wasn't purely humanitarian, it was also economic. A short break to stand, hydrate, and get a hit of sugar and caffeine was found to actually boost overall productivity.
And that tradition just carries on today.
It does. The tea break is not just a rest it. It's a necessary mechanism for recharging, gossiping, and reinforcing social bonds in the workplace.
And speaking of social bonds, we have to address the complex, delicate social dance that is the tea run.
Ah, the tea run, yes. This is an intricate system of reciprocity and obligation in the office or workplace.
So someone asks, anyone for a brew?
And then embarks on the perilous journey of taking everyone's orders.
And the etiquette is everything, isn't it? You have to remember everyone's highly specific preferences.
The exact shade of milk, the precise number of sugars, whether they like the tea bag left in or taken out. Woe betide the person who returns with the wrong order.
I can imagine.
The ability to execute a perfect tea run earns you immense social currency. It's an understated way of showing competence and care for your colleagues.
And on the flip side,
there's a passive-aggressive counterpoint. Refusing to participate in the rotation or always offering a consistently bad cup of tea can make you a social pariah. It's an entire system of unspoken workplace morality revolving around a kettle.
wow. Then, tucked just before lunch, you have 11s.
11's is a bit gentler. It's typically more of a domestic pause. around 11 or 0 a.m.
So not the rushed factory break.
No, this is a conscious, civilized interruption. It involves tea and usually a slightly more substantial snack, a biscuit, maybe a slice of fruitcake, designed to bridge that hunger gap between the morning cuppa and the midday meal.
Okay, now we have to move to the tea ritual that is most recognized globally, but ironically the most misunderstood. Afternoon tea.
Yes.
Our sources are absolutely clear on this. It is a light, social repast, not a heavy meal.
That distinction is crucial. It was invented purely to solve an aristocratic social problem.
Which was?
Well, in the 19th century, the wealthy dined fashionably late, sometimes as late as 8 or 9 p.m.
And that left a long, empty gap after a light lunch. So enter Anna, the 7th Duchess of Bedford, in the 1840s.
The Duchess complained of a chronic sinking feeling in the late afternoon, so she started requesting a pot of tea, bread, butter, and cakes be brought to her private rooms around 4 p.m.
And then she started inviting friends.
And a cultural movement was born. It was instantly fashionable.
And the formality of the ritual is what defines it. It's this highly structured performance served on that instantly recognizable 3-tiered stand.
And that stand signals leisure, wealth, and elegance.
So let's analyze the tiers, because the order is deliberate, isn't it?
Very deliberate. You start with the bottom tier, which holds the savory items. These are the dainty, crustless finger sandwiches.
They have to be crustless.
They must be precisely cut and light. Cucumber and egg and cress are the classics, maybe some smoked salmon with cream cheese. They're meant to be a delicate introduction, settling the palate before the main event.
The main event being?
The middle tier, the true heart of the ritual, the scones. They must be served warm, often wrapped in a napkin, and they're accompanied by clotted cream and jam.
Yeah, we should probably clarify what clotted cream is.
Yes, it's a specific, rich, cooked cream traditionally produced in the southwest of England, specifically Cornwall and Devon. It's incredibly thick.
And the rule of consumption is precise, right?
Right.
You should never use a knife to cut the scone.
Never. That's a huge faux pas. The scone must be broken in half by hand, and each half should be dressed and eaten separately. To treat it like a slice of bread is an insult to the tradition.
But the real cultural battlefield is in the dressing the scone wars. This is a regional debate that ignites genuine fervor.
It truly does. It is a matter of profound regional identity. Do you follow the Devon method, which dictates that you apply the clotted cream first, then the jam on top?
Cream, then jam, got it.
Or do you follow the Cornish method, where you spread the jam first and then crown it with a generous dollop of cream?
And why is this such a serious matter? It seems so.
It goes back to regional pride and, frankly, history. The Cornish argue that jam is the equivalent of butter or a spread, so it should go first.
Okay, that's their logic.
The Devonians argue that the cream is the more essential element of the scone experience and should therefore be the first layer, with the jam merely acting as a sweet garnish. Choosing the wrong method in the wrong county is a social misstep.
It just shows how deeply embedded these minor food rituals are in the cultural psyche.
Absolutely.
Okay, so finally we reach the top tier.
The grand finale. The miniature cakes and pastries.
This is the showcase of the pastry chef's craft.
Exactly. Miniature versions of classics like Battenberg, Victoria Sponge, and exquisite fruit tarts. They are the final, sweet, decadent culmination of the afternoon. The entire ceremony, lasting maybe 2 hours, is fundamentally an exercise in civilized conversation and conspicuous leisure.
Now we have to address the confusion around high tea.
Yes.
Because despite what tourist hotels often imply, high tea is not a fancier, more luxurious version of afternoon tea.
It is the complete opposite. It's the crucial distinction that separates the classes. Afternoon tea was sometimes called low tea because it was taken while lounging on low, comfortable drawing room tables.
Right.
High tea was the functional evening meal of the working class.
So the name high just refers to the fact that it was served at the main high dining or kitchen table after the workday was done.
Exactly. While the wealthy were having a light sandwich and a scone to ward off that sinking feeling, the working class, particularly those in physically demanding jobs, needed substantial fuel.
And this was served around 5 or 6 p.m. and was their main hot meal of the day. So the contents were dramatically different. What defined a proper high tea menu?
Well, a strong dark mug of tea was served, of course, but the food was hearty and hot.
Like what?
Meat pies, cold cuts, fish, sausages, chips, or dishes like baked beans on toast or bubble and squeak. This hot, protein-heavy main course was usually followed by bread and butter, cheese, and simple cakes. It was fuel and comfort, not delicacy.
And this tradition lingers today. particularly in the north of England, where tea can still mean the evening meal.
That linguistic survival proves the staying power of that working-class ritual. High tea was about sustenance after toil. Afternoon tea was about indulgence and social refinement. They represent two fundamentally different economic realities expressed through a single beverage.
Beyond the history and the dining table, what stands out most in the sources is the psychological role tea plays. It's the default, immediate, and often nonverbal response to almost every conceivable human situation.
It transcends mere consumption. It holds an almost spiritual, almost therapeutic place in the British psyche.
If there's one phrase that defines practical British comfort, it has to be, "I'll put the kettle on."
It is the ultimate verbal comfort blanket. It's an immediate, practical, understated offer of support that requires no lengthy, awkward, emotional dialogue.
Right.
It says, I see you are distressed or happy or anxious, and here is a universally acceptable solution to impose a moment of calm. It is the universal panacea.
Let's analyze how it acts as an emotional regulator in different scenarios. So think about a crisis, a minor accident, shocking news, a huge disappointment.
The first response is rarely an immediate deep discussion or an intense hug. The British reflex is to impose order on chaos by engaging in a small, manageable task, making the tea.
Right. Something to do.
Our sources note that this physical act of boiling water, selecting the mug, brewing the tea, it provides a necessary moment of pause. It forces everyone to take 3 minutes and just regulate their breathing before confronting the situation.
And the physical object, the warm mug, serves as a kind of physical anchor, a grounding point.
It's tactile comfort. The warmth seeps into your hands, and the gentle steam and aroma are restorative. It manages high emotion by redirecting energy into a simple, shared, practical task.
It's the ultimate expression of that culture of practical, understated care.
Support offered without the awkwardness of overt emotional displays.
But it works just as well for celebration, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Passed your driving test, got a new house, the kettle goes on, it ritualizes the joy, providing a reason to sit down, focus, and hear the good news in detail. It formalizes that moment of shared happiness.
And what about the quieter moments, like boredom or social awkwardness?
If there's a lull in conversation, or if you've had someone over for a couple of hours and the conversation is flagging, the kettle goes on.
Right, that's a reset button.
It punctuates time. It provides a small, socially acceptable reason to move, stretch, and create a renewed moment of purpose. When you're meeting new neighbors or relatives, the first offer of tea immediately breaks the ice and creates a shared activity, sidestepping that initial stiffness.
It seems the act of making tea is a language in itself. It communicates care and connection without having to use flowery words.
It is the nonverbal contract of social living. It's the psychological safety net for a nation that historically prefers emotional reserve. The mug speaks volumes that the person might be uncomfortable voicing aloud.
So on that note, what about hospitality?
When you enter a British home, regardless of the time of day or the social context, the first thing offered will be a cup of tea. It's the fundamental, non-negotiable gesture of welcome.
And if you refuse that offer without a very solid reason,
It can be interpreted as standoffishness or rejecting the host's hospitality.
you're not playing the game.
Precisely. To accept the tea is to accept the bond of hospitality. You're entering the comfort zone of that home, and the ritual seals that acceptance.
And while tea is this great unifier, the way it's consumed is still a subtle but powerful signifier of social class and identity.
Oh, absolutely.
We're back to the vessel. The sturdy mug versus the delicate china.
The vessel is the first marker. The sturdy, often oversized mug enamel or ceramic is for the practical, everyday, no-nonsense cuppa. It's functional, robust, and requires no ceremony.
And the china.
The delicate, thin-walled bone china teacup and saucer is reserved for formal, leisurely, or high-end settings. It signals tradition and the ability to pause.
And then we have this powerful cultural term that speaks volumes about identity. Builder's tea.
Builder's tea is a highly specific, potent, cultural signifier. It is strong, dark, usually brewed in a large, often shipped enamel mug
Okay.
with copious amounts of milk, often evaporated or condensed, and 2 or more sugars.
So it's not just a name, it's a whole lifestyle, isn't it?
It is a symbol of manual trades, of no-nonsense masculinity and functional necessity. It's fuel for hard labor. The immense strength and sugar content are designed to provide a rapid caffeine kick and energy spike to sustain heavy work.
It's tea designed purely for effect, not for subtle flavor notes.
Exactly.
Finally, we have to talk about the historical social minefield that has sparked centuries of debate, The MIF versus MIA debate.
Milk in first versus milk in after.
Yes.
This is one of the best historical anecdotes about class distinction embedded in a ritual. The preference is still fiercely debated today, but it originated entirely in economics and manufacturing.
How so?
Historically, only the very wealthy could afford fine bone china imported from China. Bone china is resilient enough to withstand the thermal shock of boiling water poured directly onto it. Therefore, the wealthy would pour the tea first, then add milk to taste. MIA milk in after.
And what about the majority of the population?
They used cheaper, heavier earthenware or pottery cups. These cups were prone to cracking when boiling water was poured directly into them.
So to prevent the loss of an expensive cup.
They would pour the milk in first to temper the heat, creating a safer environment for the hot tea to be added. MIF milk in first.
So historically, pouring the tea first was a silent, undeniable signal that you were wealthy enough to own resilient crockery.
That's exactly it, though today it's generally a personal preference. Many just prefer the way the liquids integrate when milk goes in first. The deep historical class undertones still subtly color the debate. It's remarkable that such a simple two-step process can carry centuries of social history in its wake.
So we have this centuries-old, tradition-steeped institution that's tied to empire, class, and national psychology. How does this institution navigate the complexities of a fast-paced, globalized, and, well, increasingly coffee-fueled modern world?
It's a great question.
We have to acknowledge the great modern disruptor, the invention that revolutionized, or, according to purists, ruined tea consumption forever.
The tea bag, the key bag. The tea bag, originally an American invention used for sampling loose leaf, became wildly popular in Britain beginning in the 1970s. For traditionalists, it was, yes, an act of cultural vandalism.
I can imagine the outcry.
Yeah.
It replaced the thoughtful ritual of warming the pot, measuring the loose leaf, allowing it to brew properly,
The entire ceremony.
with the brute simplicity of just dunking a porous pouch in a mug.
The purists argued that the tea in the bags was merely dust or fannings, the lowest grade of tea leaf, which provided inferior flavor compared to whole loose leaves. But its convenience was undeniable.
Of course.
It made the act of getting a brew on quicker, cleaner, and easier than ever before.
And the data shows that convenience won out decisively.
Absolutely. The speed of preparation was the great equalizer. Today, the tea bag is the undisputed king of everyday consumption. Sources show that over 96% of the tea consumed in British homes is made from tea bags.
96%.
The pot ritual survives for specific formal occasions, but the tea bag defines the modern domestic cuppa.
Okay, but if you look at the high street in any British city, you'd be forgiven for thinking coffee at one. The rise of international coffee chains since the late 1990s has dramatically altered the public landscape.
Coffee culture brought with it the idea of the sophisticated takeaway beverage, the personalized latte, and the professional setting where the offer is now coffee or tea.
Right.
This shift challenged tea's dominance, particularly among younger generations who embraced the cosmopolitan feel of high street coffee houses.
That culture of walking around with a branded takeaway cup, the latte levy, became a visible marker of modern urban life, something tea historically struggled to replicate.
But reports of tea's demise are greatly exaggerated.
You think so?
Definitely. While coffee may dominate the public sphere, the commute, the meeting room's tea remains fiercely, unshakably dominant in the private, domestic sphere. It is the ritual of the home.
And the numbers are staggering. Even with the rise of coffee, Britons still consume an estimated 100 million cups of tea per day.
That figure is double the amount of coffee consumed daily. This confirms that tea has shifted its role slightly. It's no longer the sole beverage of the working day, but it is still the undeniable comfort and emotional anchor of the home.
So coffee is the fuel for the public hustle.
And tea is the comfort for the private pause.
What's fascinating is that the rise of high-end, discerning coffee culture hasn't just challenged tea, it's actually inspired a renaissance in quality tea.
It's a case of premiumization. Consumers who are willing to pay £5 for a single origin coffee are now also seeking out premium loose leaf teas.
So people are getting more discerning.
Yes. And this has led to a major growth in artisanal tea shops, online retailers specializing in single estate Darjeelings or rare oolongs, and the rise of the specialized tea bar. People are moving beyond the generic blend.
They want the full experience, the story, and the quality that the early EIC loose leaf once offered.
Exactly. And this focus on experience has given a massive boost to the formal afternoon tea ritual. It's been brilliantly utilized by the tourism and luxury sectors.
It's no longer just a quaint thing you do once a year. It's now this hugely popular, Instagrammable leisure activity. A treat.
And hotels compete fiercely to offer the most luxurious, often themed afternoon teas.
And for maximum modern indulgence, there's the extremely popular twist,
Yeah.
the champagne or boozy afternoon tea.
Right, adding a glass of sparkling wine or champagne to the tiers of sandwiches and scones cements the ritual status as a high-end celebratory experience. It proves that this centuries-old tradition is entirely adaptable and commercially vibrant in the 21st century.
We've completed an incredible journey today. We traced a humble leaf from being a Portuguese princess's dowry and a symbol of aristocratic status, through the brutal economics of empire fueled by narco-trafficking, tax wars, and the fast technology of the clipper races.
And we saw how that leaf structured daily life through meticulous social and class rituals. The functional morning cuppa, the complex etiquette of the tea run.
The fierce loyalty demanded by the scone wars,
Absolutely.
and the fundamental difference between low tea and high tea.
It's a lot.
The ultimate lesson, I think, is that the simple act of the brew serves as a liquid anchor to the nation's past. It reflects a very specific facet of the British character, that deep respect for tradition, the love of quiet ritual, and the profound preference for understatement when dealing with emotional turmoil.
Tea provides constancy. It is the nation's silent companion, serving as comfort in every crisis and punctuation in every moment of joy. It's an institution that shows remarkable resilience, adapting from loose leaf to tea bag, from porcelain cup to takeaway experience, yet it never loses its central role.
So the final takeaway for you, the listener, is just how much history, how much class structure, and how much national psychology can be contained in the way a nation handles a simple cup of tea.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought. Think about your own preferred daily ritual beverage, whether it's coffee or mate or a sports drink. What does that simple, necessary ritual reveal about your culture, your values, and your approach to managing stress or celebration? Is there a simple daily act in your life that holds such profound power, acting as your own personal liquid anchor?